Oh, it's Weird Wednesday. We're gonna get weird. Isn't that funny? Hey guys, it's JessieDubz. I'm here for round 2 of my Weird Wednesday. And today we're gonna talk about Elisa Lam and the Cecil Hotel. Have you been watching the documentary? Have you? Well, I do this graphic liner situation. I like it. I hope you like it too. But I hope you enjoy my Weird Wednesday story more. Enjoy! Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old Canadian woman from Vancouver, BC. She was just a young 21-year-old trying to figure herself out in the world. Just from what I've heard off of the documentary and off of people who've read her online Tumblr accounts, it seems like Elisa was really determined to be independent and to do things on her own. So when she hit 21, she decided, I want to travel the west coast of the States. She wanted to go to Hollywood, to San Diego, to LA. She wanted to see the world and meet new people. From what I've gathered as well, it seems like Elisa wanted to meet people who would understand her. She decided that she was going to travel all by herself. Elisa was an introvert at heart, it seems, but her online presence and footprint, if you will, that she left behind is so honest. You are actually still able to go on and check it out for yourself to see what kind of human that she was. Just from her social media pages alone, you can tell that she was a very creative and artsy soul. She seemed extremely sweet. And so just like the rest of us, she was struggling with her own mental health issues. It's 2021. Who is it? Am I right? Apart from depression, she was suffering from bipolar class 1, which is actually the more severe version of bipolar disorder. Unfortunately, very stigmatized and very misunderstood still to this day, to be honest with you. Unlike how you picture it in your head, how it would be jumping from one emotion to the next within even a couple of minutes or an hour, it's actually not the case at all. Bipolar, you actually go through these high episodes that can last for multiple weeks. I know, exhausting. And then you would do the opposite and completely crash, and you would have lows for a couple weeks. It doesn't have to be a couple weeks. It can honestly even be as short as 4 days. Everyone's different, obviously. I'm sure it's exhausting. My heart goes out to all of you. Elise was really struggling with accepting her disorder and the amount of drugs that she had to take. I feel like she just wanted to be normal. She didn't want to have to take all this medication in order to feel that way, which is totally fair. But saying that, Elise at this point decides that she really needs to do this trip for herself. She was writing to anybody on the internet at that point too about her decision and saying how she was open to meeting new people if anyone was going to be along her way. She was open to taking advice of places where to go and what to see. So Elise starts her travels in San Diego. She stays there for multiple days. She explores, she takes pictures, she does the normal touristy things. And then after San Diego, she decides that she was going to go to LA. This, unfortunately, is the last place that anybody sees Elise alive. So Elise checks into her hotel room, which is a hotel called Stay on Main. On the website and everything, I'm sure it looked very hip. They used lots of bright colors and everything, so it looked very happy. It doesn't surprise me that it called out to Elise in some strange way, and she decides to stay at Stay on Main. After checking into Stay on Main, everything's fine and dandy for her a couple days while she is there. Going around the city, she's exploring, and then the day comes where she's supposed to check out of her room, and Elise doesn't check out. Hotel protocol, whenever you do not check out of your room, is that they essentially bag up all of your belongings and then they hold it for 30 days. For this exact reason, if any bad situation were to occur, then police can come and they can take a look at the evidence that was left behind. Or if it was hopefully a good situation, it was just something left behind and someone can call back and it's like a lost and found at that point, they can get their merchandise back. The hotel's already dealing with Elise's property. They're already bagged it all up in their office, I guess. At this time, hotel's not thinking anything of it really. But the LAPD actually receives phone calls from Elisa's parents being very concerned simply because she didn't call to check in with them. And that was extremely unlike Elisa to be doing. She had been gone already for about a week at that point, and she was checking in every day with her parents. And this was the first day, no word from Elisa. So when the cops go to the hotel room to figure out what had happened, they find out that, again, Elisa didn't check out, so the hotel had bagged all of her property. So the one major issue, obviously, with this is that it disrupts any kind of crime scene left behind. So the police obviously are interrogating the maid who cleaned the room, asking her if there was any weird disturbance. And the maid did mention that the room was dirty, but it didn't look like foul play per se. It was just a little bit messy. The cops decide that, okay, well, it could have been honestly anything at this point. Just didn't want to be found and she was running away. Maybe she had a rough night, something happened, we don't know. So the police officers decide to obviously look at her property to see what was left behind. She literally left everything there. She was taking prescription to obviously help with her mental health. All of her prescription was there. Her wallet, really everything that she had brought. It didn't look like she had actually had anything other than the clothes that she was wearing. So this is obviously a pretty big red flag. So what you end up finding out is that this hotel named Stay on Main is actually not its own hotel at all. It is a part of Cecil Hotel. I believe floors 2 through 5 were this Stay on Main. And then that would mean 6 to 14, but 13, because all hotels always remove the 13th floor. I'm just going to quote Mitch Hedberg really quick for you guys. Everyone on the 14th floor, you know what floor you're really on. It worked out pretty decently, honestly. That way, all of the remaining tenants that were part of the Cecil Hotel just not sharing the direct vicinities with tourists and the other guests of the hotel, essentially blocking the dangerous criminals from the touristy people of the world. That's right. If you know nothing about the Cecil Hotel, I definitely recommend looking even just that story up on its own as something else. I'll tell you a little bit about it, obviously. The Cecil Hotel, I believe that bad boy was built. It was built in 1924. When it first opened, it was considered the most beautiful hotel of its time. Honestly, even still to this day, guests will mention how the lobby itself is just absolutely beautiful. But ever since the beginning, it's just had this very strange, bizarre string of suicides. To me, it's just bad juju. So after the stock market crashed, obviously, everything took a serious hit. And it became a spot for a lot of the homeless people and a lot of the people who were fresh out of prison to hang out. And because the Cecil would offer cheap rooms, it became just a place for criminals to let their hair down. In the 80s in particular, there's actually a resident who would stay in the Cecil often. And he goes on to say in the documentary on Netflix that it was so dangerous in the Cecil Hotel, he did not want to go above floor 6. Because if you went above floor 6, you're most likely going to get robbed and then thrown out the window. Do you guys remember the Night Stalker? You might be too young to remember the Night Stalker. I remember the Night Stalker. He had everybody just absolutely terrified. Pattern, it seemed like everything he was doing was new and he was experimenting and he just had no MO. He would literally hurt and kill anybody. It totally depended on his mood, on how extreme it would be. This is a whole other Weird Wednesday story for you. But the Night Stalker, while he was on his killing spree, this is where he was staying, okay, was the Cecil Hotel. So, after a night of, adventurous murdering, rampaging, and all that fun shit, he would come back to the Cecil Hotel covered in blood. He would remove his bloody clothing outside of the Cecil Hotel, but he would still walk from the door all the way back up into his room, covered in blood in his underwear. No one batted an eyelash. No one asked questions. He was right at home. Because of the Cecil Hotel being a hotel, they don't need to do any kind of background checks. So that means anybody can stay in this place, especially people that don't want to be found. So, guys, this story. If you walk out the front doors of the Cecil Hotel, you end up in a place called Skid Row. That's considered one of the most violent and dangerous places to be if you're in the States. This is where our poor friend Elise ended up, okay? She's in the middle of Skid Row, a 56-block radius with 800 to, I think, 1,000 people all crammed into. There's lots of drugs, there's lots of prostitution, there's lots of alcohol. This is not a good place for anybody to be. This was bad from the start. Amy Price was the manager of the Cecil Hotel at the time. She goes on to say that Amy saw a dead body for the first time within a few days of being hired at the Cecil Hotel. She also says that she's made thousands of calls to 911, as well as has seen probably at least a total of 80 bodies now. Dead bodies. Total of 80 dead bodies in the course of 10 years. It's a lot, okay? She said she's probably calling the cops at least 1 to 3 times a day. A day! I can't. If I had to call 911 once, I think I'd stress the fuck out. I couldn't imagine doing it literally 1 to 3 times every time I go into my place of work. Fuck, man. Quit. I'm gonna jump back now to Elise. So this point now in the case, Elise has been missing for 6 days. They still don't have any leads. At this point, they're like, you know what? We should reach out to the public and see if anybody has seen anything that will help us in our investigation. So the LAPD decides to hold a press conference with Elisa's parents as well as Elisa's sister, asking for anybody to step forward if they have seen or heard anything from Elise. Officers who had to go through all of the security footage from the Cecil Hotel for Elisa's case, the thing that they mentioned that was the most frustrating was that, one, not all the floors had security cameras. You think they'd have security cameras on all the floors. They don't. And including, obviously, Elisa's floor. Super helpful, I know. But the cameras that they do have and that they are going through, some of them are just at weird angles. They're not all really helpful, but they are able to find a couple shots of Elise on the day that she went missing. And the most important thing that they did figure out from the footage, Elise never left the building. There was no video of her leaving through any front or back door. So that means Elise had to be in that hotel somewhere, either captive from one of the other guests at the hotel, or she left in a garbage bag, or some other weird shit. The cops were like, okay, no, this means she's in there though. Like, we have to find her. She's in the hotel somewhere. So the officers decide, okay, if she's in this building somewhere, we're just going to do a thorough search. We'll go room by room. Sounds easier than it is. This hotel was so big, it honestly had over 600 closets alone. It wasn't going to be a small task, but they took it on. They found nothing. At that point, they were like, okay, we're going to bring in the dogs. So again, they call in the dogs. They come in, and they actually do have a hit off of Elisa's room somewhere, I believe. And then it leads them to the fire escape or the window at the end of Elisa's hallway, and then the dog lost its scent. Again, none of this is helpful, really. They're like, okay, well, yeah, she was in this room, and okay, maybe she could have used the fire escape if she was feeling in danger of any kind, but again, this isn't really helpful information. So the cops are obviously thinking, this is all fucking weird, right? But since the dogs led us to the fire escape, maybe we should check the roof and make sure that's all clear as well. So at this point, it's nighttime. They actually call in a helicopter with the spotlight. They're doing, again, a very thorough search of the rooftop with the dogs and everything as well. Nothing's up there either. At this point, they're like, what the fuck? She's gotta be here somewhere, or she left in a very not okay way. This has just got red flags all over it. They're at this point searching her online, and they've got a good read and a good feel for who Elisa is as a human. And a runaway just doesn't fit her character. The cops immediately are like, something's going on. At this point in time, the LAPD actually started being attacked by one of their own. So the task force that was working on Elisa's case went from 18 officers down to 4. And obviously it left the officers that were working on Elisa's case, they were back at the start because they had zero evidence. Any course of action that they were trying to do before when they had the team to do it didn't work. So how is it going to work with 4 people now? To say the least, it was a shit show. I'm sure they were feeling a little bit down, to say the least, at this time. Like, you know what? We need the public's help again. We're going to release the last footage that we have of Elisa live to see if anyone can help with what's going on in this video. This is when shit gets even more weird. The thing you have to remember about this time is that there wasn't really such a thing as viral videos yet. But Elisa's video of her last seen whereabouts went viral within a week and a half. The internet was losing its mind for this videotape of her in an elevator. I lost my mind when I saw it too. I was like, what the hell is going on? It's literally a 4-minute video, but it is the strangest 4-minute video you will probably see today anyway. I would hope. I hope it doesn't get weirder than Elisa's, because that's just no good. I'm not gonna show the video here. Feel free to Google it. The internet, obviously people had a ton of different conspiracies and their own thoughts and opinions on what they thought was going on. But the internet was helpful. It did actually notice a couple useful things I will point out to you. The first thing was that the timestamp on the video, first of all, was just all kinds of fucked up, like scrambled. You could tell someone messed with it because you clearly see what time it is and what day it is. And it was so frazzled up in there, you had no idea what day or time it was at all. And then the video had been slowed down about 35% during the time where Elise was doing the weird hand gestures. It just made it look a hell of a lot weirder when it was slowed down that amount than when it was at its normal speed. So when people sped it up, it just looked more natural, I guess you would say. It wouldn't look as like I'm masking a spell on you. You know, it looked like more natural hand gestures, okay? That's just how it is. And then 53 seconds were missing. Once people could unfrazzle all of those numbers and letters, they were actually to determine that 53 seconds were missing from the clip completely. A lot can happen in 53 seconds. And maybe that would have been exactly the missing piece that we were missing, was this 53 seconds of footage. Ties into it, but the video was cut. You could actually see in a certain spot where the door's finally starting to close, it jumps all of a sudden. So that means that the video was altered, right? Or that there's missing footage of the door slowly shutting just normally, because all of a sudden it goes from here to like here. I edited that. That's how I did it. This was my main thing too. Whenever she's standing there, the elevator doesn't move, the doors don't shut, they don't even try until she leaves. It's creepy. Was someone holding the button? Was there somebody in the hotel literally holding the elevator on that floor until she left? There were so many hotel conspiracies at this point because it seemed like somebody must have been there or preventing the elevator from going anywhere whenever Elise was clearly terrified and uncomfortable. And why can't she leave? It literally looked like something from a horror movie. At this point, 19 days go by. No word or no idea what's happened to Elise at all. But the hotel manager, Amy, she actually ends up getting some complaints from some of the other guests at the hotel saying how their water pressure in their room is just no good. Beyond the water pressure, there was a dark brown coloring coming out of the water. Amy obviously sends up her maintenance manager to investigate and fix the problem so that the guests are all comfortable and happy and it's all good in the hood. On the roof of the Cecil Hotel, there are 4 water tanks. So our maintenance manager from the Cecil Hotel, he actually goes up the roof to investigate the water tanks and to see what's going on with them. Make sure they're not blocked. Whenever he goes up there and he looks in, unfortunately, this is when he discovers Elisa Lam's body. She was floating face up in one of these water tanks, completely naked. Yeah, so at the time, obviously, everybody's thinking foul play. This woman was found with no clothes on. She was in the water tanks. Who would get into a water tank on their own? Why would you get naked in the water tank? Why would you go in there and close the hatch on yourself? There were so many questions. They even had Elisa Lam's body at this point, and they didn't have any of their answers. They were literally just getting more questions. So again, when they first discovered the body, because she had been submerged in water for they don't even know how long at this point, time to do her autopsy and to figure all these things out because there's been water damage. So it was known at this point that this stuff isn't going to be really fast. That meant that people had to go out and find the answers for themselves, right? Like, we're not patient people. We all want to know right now. I want to know now. What the fuck happened? Like, fuck me. But anyway, some people actually did find out some things. So one of the things that was a really handy dandy tip that the people found out was in the last footage of Lisa, when she's hitting all the middle row buttons in the elevator, she actually hits the elevator hold button. So that means the elevator wasn't going to move for a whole 2 minutes, no matter what. So that ruled out there being anybody else actually messing with the elevator because people actually tested it for themselves to see if it worked and everything, and the same thing happened to them. They found out that Elisa's room, she was staying on floor 5, but for whatever reason, Elise in the video isn't on floor 5. If you watch carefully, she's actually on the top floor. Every time when she hit that top button, the light lit up and then disappeared. But when she hits the other ones, they all stay lit. So that means that that top one, that's the floor she's on. That also changes the floor. Whenever you go back now and you're watching the video and you're seeing which direction she took off everything, this changes things. She has 2 options since she's on the 14th floor, where the first one obviously being there's stairs, okay? The stairs though, the main thing is that it's actually got a security alarm on the door. That you open the door and you hit that bar, it actually sends off a silent alarm down to the lobby so the staff know that there's someone on the roof. All the staff members, for this reason, do not think that Elise took this route because they would have had alarms going off and they would have known that someone was on the roof that night. Instead, what she would have done was she would have actually climbed out onto the fire escape where there was an open ladder on the side of the building going up to the roof. If you watch anything about the Cecil Hotel and you see the stairs I'm talking about, it's terrifying. I watched it thinking the only fucking way she went up those stairs was if someone was chasing her. She was that scared that she went up because you're just deaf if you fall. Literally, if you were climbing up and then all of a sudden you like slipped, you're like, free falling. I watched it being like, no, no, no. People are also theorizing, I guess, that because nobody would have really known that the water tanks were up there except for staff or maybe someone who had been living there for a long time, that maybe would have to be premeditated because everyone assumed that Elise wouldn't have known anyway going up there that there was water tanks. Beyond that, the hatch itself for the door to open this water tank was about 20 pounds. People were saying that if she was found with the latch closed, how could she have held this 20-pound latch open and then slipped herself into the tank and then just shut it? Almost knocking yourself out kind of deal, or like potential of knocking yourself out if you're me. I don't picture that being a thing. So this was the one thing that my brain could not get over. How the hell did this 20-pound latch get shut if there wasn't somebody else there, right? Another question too, once you're in the tank, why would you remove your clothes, right? The last thing that was really useful that the internet people all found out was once you were in the tank, there was absolutely zero way for her to have been able to get out, right? It's not like there's stairs or steps or there's anything for you to grab onto once you're inside a water tank. It's not like she could have pulled herself up to close the latch on herself, is what they were saying. So it's 2 days after they've discovered Elisa's body, and honestly, the coroner has very little to tell the anxious world about what has happened to Elise. Get this. Time of death? Couldn't tell you. How long was she in the tank? We don't know. Does she have any injuries? None. Was she sexually assaulted? No, no signs of sexual assault. Did she drown? Well, there's no signs of drowning. It doesn't rule out the fact that she still could have drowned. Clothing did match the video, though. But again, he couldn't say if she'd went in the tank that day wearing the same clothes, or if she maybe was captive for a couple of days and then ended up in the tank. We had no idea. A few days later, the toxicology report comes back, and it actually does confirm that Elisa does not have any kind of drugs or alcohol in her system other than her prescription ones that she was obviously supposed to be taking. The only weird thing, it was not the correct amount and not what you're thinking. It was lower than what she was supposed to be taking. After all of this is announced, the coroner does say that he has more tests to run, so it will give him maybe a better idea of what happened to Elise. In the meantime, though, the world is at this point still trying to come up with their own version of what happened to Elise. There were so many different theories and stories. It was unreal. I'm pretty sure even the Illuminati got brought up at one point in time. The theory saying that the Cecil Hotel employees as well as the LAPD were working together on a massive cover-up. Oh, there was also a theory. It was really creepy too, I'll give it to this person. There's a lot of just crazy similarities between the movie Dark Water and Elisa Lam's death. In the movie, the mother also notices the water being dark brown color, and she goes up to the roof of this hotel, and her daughter has unfortunately been murdered in the water tank. Again, whoever thought of that, that was a good one. Seriously, that was good. This is the most insane one, but there was a TB outbreak days after they found Elisa's body, and the official name for the test, LAM-ELISA. Elisa Lam's name, just backwards. To me, that is like the most freakiest fucking coincidence ever. Even some of the cops that were involved on the case, whenever it came to this part of the interview, they even said that they don't have an explanation for it. We don't know what exactly happened there. There was a tuberculosis outbreak, and they're just done named the test after Elisa Lam for some reason. This is one of the things that doesn't get explained, and it bothers me. I need things to be explained, guys. It's a group of people who discover a death metal artist named Morbid. Morbid is obviously a typical death metal guy. He's pretty intimidating looking. He's got lots of makeup on. He does sing about death and killing people and all that fun stuff. So people started assuming that this Morbid character had actually been Elisa Lam's murderer. People are really desperate at this point to find answers. He just coincidentally had a couple of similarities throughout some of his thongs. And some of his thongs, I did it again. Morbid sang some songs that unfortunately had lyrics that matched up with Elisa Lam's case. It was unfortunate, and what made it even more unfortunate was that Morbid had also posted a video of him staying at the Cecil Hotel. So that meant people on the internet lost their mind on this guy. Everyone was calling him a murderer. He was getting ridiculous hate mail every day. He actually had one of his friends ask him what he had done because they saw him on news in Asia. That's right, Morbid made headlines somewhere in China, I believe. stating that how he had ties to Elisa Lam's case and that his music had a lot of similarities. And he had no idea until literally watching it in this moment now too, just like the rest of us. Obviously the LAPD look into this guy. This guy didn't have anything to do with it at all. The video of him staying at the Cecil Hotel, it was from a year prior. Wah wah. So I guess people just forgot to check the timestamp on that one. Oops. There's even government conspiracy, especially after the tuberculosis test situation. Last thing that was just super weird that my brain can't really process properly either. One of the last places she had gone to that day was a bookstore called The Last Bookstore. Oh, there's all this weird shit, man. I don't know. I guess she had either ordered so many books that they were heavy, or just the books that she wanted were heavy, so she had the bookstore deliver these books to her hotel room. Whenever they looked up the postal code on her order, it actually pinpoints her gravesite in BC. Like, what? It was at this point where the cops are getting stumped again, right? And they're like, okay, well, we should start retracing Elisa's steps the day she went missing. As they were doing that, they realized that Elisa had gone to a live taping of a show. And I guess while she was there, she had written a long, lengthy, pretty rambly note to, sorry, I can't talk, the host of the show. And because just vibe they were getting from the letter and from Elisa, they actually escorted her off the property as a risk. After the police found that out, they're kind of like, well, what the fuck? Okay. They started talking to some of the other people that might have talked to Elisa in the hotel, if she made friends or anything, right? And when she first checked into this hotel, she was actually sharing a room with two roommates, but the police ended up discovering that the roommates ended up complaining about Alicia because she was showing just odd and erratic behavior the longer that they were around her. They said actually even been leaving notes on her roommate's property saying to either go home or go away. And there was one incident in particular where she actually locked them out, asking for a password in return in order to let them back in. It was at this point where the hotel was like, you know what? Maybe we'll just put all the girls up separately. That way everyone's happy. It's all good. They all have their own space. And then that's when the manager, Amy, actually says that one of the last times that she'd seen Alicia live, she was in the lobby, kind of running around exclaiming, "I'm crazy, but so's LA." You know, I'm sure, like, especially being on Skid Row, like, it's definitely not the craziest thing that they've seen at the Cecil Hotel. I could put money on that one. But once police officers were finding all this out, they were noticing Alicia's behavior was just extremely abnormal and odd, to say the least. Like, at the exact same time, the coroner is actually requesting to see the area at which the body was discovered, because he's still trying to figure out exactly what happened to this poor girl. The LAPD and the coroner, they go up to the Cecil Hotel and they're looking at these water tanks that are on top of the roof. And looking at them again with a more critical eye, they're realizing that they're placed very closely together, and there is a lot of piping intertwined in at the bottom where you step. And then beyond that, they're at least 10 feet high. If you were carrying a dead body, the chances of you not damaging the body while trying to maneuver through these tanks and pipes and then climb up the ladder 10 feet to put her in is very unlikely. I understand what you're thinking though. The latch. That damn fucking latch. My brain wouldn't let go of it either. I get it. Don't worry. I got you. I didn't forget about you. This is when the coroner decides that he rules Alicia's death as an accidental drowning. To the people on the internet who have been following this since day one, who had invested at this point just so many hours of their life actually dedicated to trying to figure out what had happened to Alicia, they were not happy. What do you mean? There were so many weird things about this case from the beginning. Everything was just so fucking weird. There was also no police reports ever released on this case, which did not help the internet people at all. The brains just kept going for a little while. And because it kind of played into the whole conspiracy theories with the LAPD having a big massive cover-up with the Cecil Hotel and all of the things, the Illuminati. There's a documentary on this on Netflix. That's where I hang out most of my days. But there's a documentary on Netflix. Take a peek. Super good. I was locked in from start to finish because it's just so fucking weird. Like, there's a lot of little details that I even didn't fill you in on because it's just so much. But to get back to it, my cats are crazy. So the reason why they ended up ruling this as an accidental death was because Alicia had actually stopped taking her bipolar medication. When people with bipolar 1 disorder stop taking their medication, it can be weird. Like, if you watch the video at all, some weird shit can happen. You can hallucinate, you can be literally absolutely convinced, like Alicia, that there's someone after you and trying to get you. Everybody's different, obviously. And apparently this is not out of character for Alicia as well either. Because once they had discovered this, the sister actually came on to admit that this wouldn't be the first time that this has happened. Alicia in the past, she, like I mentioned at the very beginning, she didn't want to be on her medication. She just wanted to live her life, right? So I'm sure in the middle of one of her manic highs, she decided she didn't need her meds anymore and stopped taking them. And this caused her to actually start hallucinating and be paranoid to the point where she thinks someone's after her. Her sister did go on to say that in this moment as well, she's known to hide under her bed just because she's so convinced that who's coming after her. So again, being Alicia, if you think someone's after you, you're gonna go up the fire escape and get to the roof and you see these big water drums and she got inside to hide. Ah, what about that latch and what about her naked? Don't worry, young grasshopper. Woosa, young grasshopper. I'll explain. The LAPD accidentally announced on the air that the latch was closed when they found Alicia's body. It's not the case. Unfortunately, that was a huge miscommunication between the LAPD and the public because when Alicia's body was found, the latch was open, not closed. So that means that, yes, she would have got in herself and would have been unable to get out. But why was she there again? So, if you think about it, if you're treading water for an excessive amount of time, your body's going to start to get tired, you're going to start to get weak, and they actually suggest that she was actually starting to get tired and the clothing was weighing her down, so she was taking it off herself, trying to lighten the load to try and make it easier for her to tread water for so long. One of my biggest takeaways from Alicia's whole story is just, when you stop and think about it, how many other Elisa Lambs have just gone under the radar that we just don't know about? I feel like there is a big outcry for mental health concerns these days. It's 2021. I know we all have our own things going on up there. No matter who you are, I just need to say that they're... Oh, hey, I'm talking about being nice to each other. Be nice. So, on that note, be nice to each other. That's pretty much what I was going to say. But no, life's not easy. If I take away anything from Alicia's story, it's just, I feel like we need to be more understanding and show more empathy towards each other. You know what I mean? You don't have to be someone's best friend in order to care. You might be a complete stranger watching this video right now. I'm gonna tell you something. I care about you. Yeah, that's right. I got big love for you, friend. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your name is. But you're the shit. That's right. But that's my takeaway. I just have to throw in here too, for all my friends and family who are out there supporting me and listening and watching. First of all, hi. Love you guys. Second of all, if you ever need anybody, even if it's just someone to listen to you, please, I hope you know you're always welcome to reach out to me. I have your back, whether I know you that great or not. I got you. I need you guys to know that you're all appreciated and you're all loved, whether I know you're not, okay? I hope you all have a delightful Weird Wednesday. This is JessieDubz, signing off.